Navigating the world of leadership interviews can be really exciting, but it can also be really challenging. One of the biggest hurdles is that behavioural interview questions. Tell us about a time when. These prompts require you to pull a story out of thin air. I've been in leadership for over 18 years, and my ultimate goal is to help you uncover your true leadership potential and find a role that really supports your strengths. Today we're going to tackle this behavioural question challenge head on. I'm going to show you how to make a story toolbox. This is a simple yet really powerful method that you can use to help you tackle those difficult behavioural questions. A story toolbox is a simple way to prepare for behavioural interview questions. Instead of waiting for the dreaded question, tell us about a time, and then scrambling to think of an answer, you are prepared with a collection of pre-written stories ready to go in your memory bank. Behavioural questions are all about giving the interviewers the opportunity to perceive how you are going to be in the role. When you share a real-world example or a story, it helps them visualise how you're going to behave, how you're going to act, and potentially what you're going to say. If you simply give a generic overview of your leadership philosophy, it sounds hollow and it doesn't give them a true representation of what your potential actually is. So step one is to brainstorm your own stories. So get out a notebook, if you're going to go old school, and a pen, or just open a Word document and start. The goal is to build at least 5 core stories. This way you can adapt them to various scenarios. So to get started, you want some problem-solving stories, at least 2 or 3. Think of a time where you accomplished something really significant, overcame a major obstacle, or were the hero who saved a tricky problem. Then you want some interpersonal stories, maybe 1 or 2. Recall a situation where you had to work with a difficult co-worker, improve communication with the team, or handle conflict. And then you're gonna need 1 failure story. Everyone makes mistakes. Write about a time where you messed up, what you learned from it, and how you fixed the situation. Don't talk about how you failed and the end. This shows self-awareness and accountability, which are key leadership traits. Don't worry about trying to get this really perfect now. Just get your stories down. Step 2 is to structure your stories with the CAR method. CAR is C for challenge, A for action, and R for result. So if you're structuring it around the CAR method, start with C. What was the challenge? Set the stage. What was the problem? What was at stake? What was the context? The key here is to provide just enough information without getting bogged down into detail. A is for action. This is where you shine. What specific steps did you take to fix the problem? What was your role in the situation? Use I statements to reinforce it. I know a lot of us go into interviews and we've come from a background where we're thinking about the team and we like to talk as we. But in an interview scenario, they need to know what your role was. So incorporate the I statements. R is for result. What was the outcome? How did your actions benefit the individual, the team, or the organisation? Use metrics wherever you can. For example, we saved 15% on the budget. Or as a consequence of the actions, the team met the project deadline 2 weeks early. This method is really powerful because it lets you focus on the core key components of the story and you don't get sidetracked by all of the detail. Step 3 is to practice and adapt to your stories. The beauty of the Story Toolbox is that you don't need a new and unique story for every single example. You can and you should adapt your stories. For example, let's say an interviewer asks, "Tell us about a time where you disagreed with your boss." You might think about your toolbox and remember that you've already written a story about working with a difficult co-worker, which can be moulded to fit the question. You can use the same CAR structure, but move the narration around. So while the example might be different, the fact that you know how the CAR method works means, oh yeah, I have written something about a difficult co-worker, but actually I could apply that same kind of structure to answer the question about my difficult boss. So an example could be, question is, tell us about a time where you disagreed with your boss. Your answer using the CAR method. In my previous role, I faced a challenge when my boss implemented a new communication protocol that I felt was hindering our team's collaboration. It required multiple layers of approvals for certain tasks, causing delays and impacting our overall efficiency. So action, recognizing the need for a clear process, but also the negative impact of the new protocol. I decided to proactively schedule a meeting with my boss. I came prepared with data and a proposed streamlined approach that retained the necessary approvals but removed the unnecessary bureaucratic steps. I also suggested that we implement a periodic review of the protocol to ensure it was always serving our needs. So the result? My boss appreciated the proactive discussion and our solution-orientated approach. We implemented my proposed changes, which resulted in faster decision-making and improved collaboration. We even adopted the periodic review as a regular practice, fostering a culture of continuous improvement. Pretty powerful, but quite straightforward in terms of the structure. With a few stories and the right structure, you can actually tackle a huge range of questions. So the next step in your homework is to start building your own story toolbox. Don't wait for the next interview. Start preparing it now. You're more likely to come up with the most impressive examples if you're not rushing it. And if you want to dive deeper into this, make sure you subscribe to my channel for more leadership tips. And I've got loads of videos about preparing for interviews too. So thanks very much for watching.